Our bodies are designed with a sensory system, and therefore we are expected to respond to different things within our environment. This includes things we taste, the things we touch, see with our eyes, hear with our ears, and even the things we smell. However, sometimes the whole process of response is affected in that you may under-respond or over-respond. This is because the brain is affected in one way or another way, and therefore the whole process of sensory information system is affected. Welcome to today's video where we're going to talk about sensory processing disorder. Welcome to today's video. Please don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell for you to be notified any other time a new video is out. And this is special needs parents. In today's video, we're going to talk about sensory processing disorder. And sensory processing disorder is a condition that affects how our brain processes sensory information. Sensory information includes the things we see with our eyes, the things we taste, the things we smell, the things we hear with our ears, and even the things we touch. So in general, sensory processing disorder affects the sensory system. All of us are expected to respond to different things within our environment. But when that responding is overdone or underdone, and this affects our daily lives, it affects our learning and even how we interact with others, then that becomes a disorder. And the disorder is which we call sensory processing disorder. Sensory processing disorder may occur with other disorders like autism, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorders, and even with cerebral palsy. So sometimes it comes alone and sometimes it is accompanied or happens with even other disorders. Individuals with sensory processing disorder may overreact or underreact to sensory inputs, and this includes things like sounds, let's say music, or even clothing, and even food textures or food tastes. Let's get into the video and explore more about sensory processing disorder. We've said that an individual could be over-responsive or under-responsive. And in this video, we're going to majorly look at how an individual is over-responsive, which is also known as over-sensitive. And some of the characteristics that can show you that this individual is over-sensitive and over-responsive, which can affect their daily lives. To begin with, let's look at the sense of taste and smell. Point number 2 is that they will always avoid places with strong smells. Let's say a room always under an air freshener or a certain scent, they'll always avoid going to that room. Or even when you're preparing something in the kitchen, you'll find that they will not come to that kitchen because they don't want to get into contact, they don't want to feel the smell that is going on around the kitchen. Another point with smell and taste, you find that they may dislike certain foods because of their smell or their taste, and sometimes may have very limited food preferences. These are times where you find that parents say that their children only eat rice and even ugali. Let's say they are only white foods. Maybe they just don't want the smell of other foods, let's say fruits. Let's say it's a pineapple, they just don't want that taste of a pineapple, or rather the smell of a pineapple. Remember, we said they are very sensitive to odors or smells that you may not notice. You find that in this case, they are even sensitive to smells of fruits. You have never had or you've never felt a fruit is smelling, but this child or this individual will feel the smell of the fruit and they'll be always avoiding it in any way that they can, so that they cannot just consume it. They may also dislike the texture of certain foods, let's say vegetables, and they just don't want to eat them. Moving on to the next sense, let's look at visual oversensitivity. Point number one is that these children are bothered by bright light and even the sun. Anytime you open the window, you'll find that they try to close their eyes, or they try not to look outside because they feel the sun is too much. Another point on visual oversensitivity, you find that these children will always avoid a visually busy place. Like, let's say you're going into a mall where there is a lot of people moving up and down. They have to look left, look right, they have to see people and so many things around them. You find that these children will even start crying because they don't want that place. That place is visually too busy. Sometimes when you put for them something to watch, there's so much watching colors and everything going on the screen, you'll find that they will never look at that thing. They'll always look away from the busy visually place. Point number 3 is that they'll always avoid eye contact. When you talk to them, they'll be busy keeping their eye contact on something else or just staring into the air, but they don't want to look into your eye because they don't want to have that eye contact. They don't want to keep their eyes and their visual systems busy. Another point is also that they will always prefer dim lights and even under shades. These are individuals who can walk in a room, and when the light is too bright, they'll just switch it off and get to their bed, or even just sit on a chair and switch off the lights. So sometimes you may be wondering what is wrong with their child. Why do they always switch off the lights? It's because they just want to stay that under dim light and they don't want so much brightness around them. Another point is that they fear heights so much. Some can't even go upstairs. Some can't get on monkey bars, and when other children are climbing up and having fun, going down on swings and on slides, they can't do that. They fear getting up. Even on elevators and escalators, they can't just do that. They don't want to get on any high place. The last category is tactile activities. How can you know that a child is oversensitive when it comes to touching their body and the whole tactile system? Number 1 is that they avoid affectionate touch. Those hugs, those pampering of the hands, the cuddling, just keep it to yourself. They don't want it. They don't like it. They just don't want it at all. Another point, number 2, is that they're always bothered with the clothing that they are putting on. Let's say a seam on a clothing, a sticker, or even a woolen sweater. They just don't like the way those threads and the way those stickers get into contact with their skin, and they'll be always irritated by those clothings. They don't want them at all. Point number 2 is that they always avoid messy playing. Messy playing or messy games includes the use of Play-Doh and even the use of paints. You find that children enjoy so much sometimes when they get messy, when they are molding with their Play-Doh, when they are painting using their fingers and everything. For these individuals, this is not just their cup of tea. They can't. They don't want to do the painting. They just want to stay clean because they don't want anything to interfere with their tactile system. They don't want to touch things. They don't want to get into contact with things that distract their hands. They want their hands to stay as clean as possible and not even touch anything at all. Another point is that they're always distracted or not comfortable with activities that get into contact with their skin, like trimming of their nails and even cutting of their hair. They feel so irritated, they dislike it so much. Another point is also that they always avoid standing next to their peers, next to their friends, and even the people around them. If you are doing a circle time in your school or even in your house, These are individuals who will just stand alone somewhere and they don't want anyone to come anywhere closer to them. They just want to have their space there and stand alone because they don't want that contact with anyone else. Another point is that their food preferences is very limited. They just do not eat anything that comes on their table. They have to be knowing it, they have to be familiar with it, and they have to always choose what to eat. They can't just eat anything. The last point on this is that they are very ticklish. Even before your hand gets there, they're already reacting because they are oversensitive. The last point on this is that they dislike leaning on their back or even putting their head behind. You find that this could be done when they want to be washed, when they want to wash their hair, but they just dislike that activity of putting their head backwards or leaning on their back. They don't like it. That was all for today. Please stay tuned for part 2 of this video. We'll be looking at some of the characteristics that individual shows when they are underreacted. Thank you so much for keeping this special also click on the notification bell. See you next time. Have a good time.